Alright, so I'm just getting stuff cut out. Not very exciting at the moment. This is just a waterproof canvas. This is the back. Front, it's just a nice, kind of heavier weight canvas. Plasticky. This one is cork. This is a black cork. Super pretty. This is a fuzzy fabric-y inside. She's the only person in my room. Being on top today doesn't mean this is, oops, sorry, this is Stiffy. the stabilizer with a horrible name. It's like Peltex sew-in. You can get it for really cheap for like 42-yard roll. Is it 42 yards? I don't know, but it's really cheap for this big roll. Meet your guest judge, local chef. I think it's about the same stiffness. It just doesn't have the fusible on it, and it's cheaper.
He's a mainstay there in the market. He's got 2 restaurants in
Zipper? Okay. So this is the firm stabilizer that gives your wallet some body. Sorry for the boobies. It's hot. Yeah, so this is for the back piece. This is for the flap piece. I do my necessary clutch wallet differently than the pattern so that I have the sides are separated. Here's one that's the outside is made. So these are the wings, what I call the centerpiece flap, and on the inside is just like a, oop, that's bright. There we go. It's like just one big long piece. I don't cut the curves until after I've sewn them because there's no point in cutting it twice because you got to trim it after you sew it anyway. So I'm cutting out this piece right here because I forgot to cut those. But I'm doing them in black because this is for a different one. now we have all of our wing pieces. We have the body pieces that we're going to mount our card slots to, fronts and backs. Trim down my other card slots here. So these ones are over 16, so I'll just cut them in half when I do them, but I gotta stitch along the edges. So I just make them long and then cut them later. So you'll need, for each wallet, you'll need 4 rows. So this is for 2 wallets, twice length, so 8 of them. And this one, I didn't have enough wide enough, so these are all cut shorter. These are all the card slots. These are the center pieces for the card slots, which are 8 inches wide, cut down. You can make them a little longer. These are just because that's the end of the roll, and 5.5 wide. So 5.5 wide is the important part. You can trim down the 8 later. Flaps. Where's my other stuff here? These are the back of the body pieces and the zippered pocket piece, back of the flaps. So now I just have to cut for the inside lining of the zipper pocket, and then we're all done, then we can start sewing. This is the only pattern piece I use for the entire clutch wallet, and you'll see no ironing involved. Okay. These are the back pieces. These are the little wing pieces. This is the canvas, and these guys are cork. So one side is 8.5, one side is 9. We're stitching them on to the 9 side. Just like everything else, we chain everything and then we snip them apart because it makes life easier. Okay. So now we do the other side. Okay. So you have stitch on one side. So we have our little wings sewn on to our body piece. It will go this way. So these guys are kind of set, and now we'll do the flaps, just because I like to do them that way. Okay. So these are a cotton fabric that I fused some decor bond, a little more body. I do my flaps square just because it's easier and it's faster to cut. For the cork part, I just stitched the canvas thing to the back of the cork, right sides facing. And so when I have Fabric for the front, I use the back part of it will be cork so that it gets, a little bit more body to it, and then it looks nice when you open them up instead of just having the canvas on the other side. You'll see. So now all the flaps are sewn. So now I'm going to prep the card slots. Okay. If you're using cork, cork has a slight stretch across the grain. So like the salvage edge goes along this way. So it doesn't stretch along the salvage edge, it stretches across the grain the other way. So it stretches this way. So if you cut your cork parallel with the salvage edge, it will not stretch and buckle on you. But if you cut it the other direction, it'll get all kind of like, it'll try to stretch and pull and get wonky when you try to stitch this edge. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take it and I'm going to fold it just like an 1/8 of an inch and just top stitch it down, just like a little 1/8 of an inch roll, just so it finishes that little edge for the card slots. I do that for the men's wallet too, same thing. So you're just stitching just a little edge on there. You can see that it's just rolled just like a hair over, and then you just stitch along it. So it makes like a nice little finished edge on the outside. So then all of our, which part? This is my version of the card slots. Did your mom teach you so? Yeah, my mom used to do like car upholstery when I was a kid, but my mom and both my aunts on my dad's side actually taught me how to sew. But pretty much all the women in my family know how to sew. So, yeah, so these are the card slots. This is so you don't have to iron, and then you can do them in cork fabric or vinyl instead of regular fabric. Okay, and then these will be the two in the middle card slots, you'll see. We roll each edge of these two. Okay, so all these can get set aside. More card slots. So that's fine. I forgot to. Yeah, these little clippers are awesome. And like, you should always trim threads with clippers and never with your scissors, because every time you trim a thread, it leaves a little dull spot on your scissors. And these little guys are only like $1 something, like on Amazon. So they're like cheap, disposable, while your scissors are expensive, and you'll leave little dull spots if you trim threads a lot with your regular scissors. So this is the big pocket piece for the center pocket and the divider. And this is all the zipper that I'm going to use for all 4 of these wallets. I just keep it all as one continuous thing because there's no point in cutting it until I stitch it on. Lining, zipper, pocket. center pocket. This one is faced with Deco Bond. The center lining is not. So you can see, really soft, really stiff. So like with anything, you want your squishier, your softer fabric on the bottom, and your stiffer fabric that doesn't pull on the top. So with your zipper facing up. And you just sandwich your zipper in there, stitch them down. Okay. Same thing with the next one. Stick in. Put your needle down in the down position. Alright, so now you have, darn, lost you. Oh. Is it still working or no? Okay, so now I have all of our zipper pockets all chained together. Forgot the cheapy scissors because you're going to be cutting through zipper. So, cheap crappy scissors. And then this little extra bit, I trim them down. Break out our little Japanese sewing tool here. Clover brand. Is it like a Hari tool? H-A-R-I tool? Hari? I don't know. They sell them in Joann's, they sell them on Wawak. They're awesome for like pretty much everything. Okay, so what you're going to do is you take it with this side is going to be flat, right? So everything is going to be flat. You lay them down and you pull this side over. So you're just going to have a crease on this side. You can use your little boning tool so that when you stitch it, it's going to be flat on this side and rolled on this side, lining on this side. You just top stitch him down. Okay. So, oops, right. So this is our stitching on this side with our zipper, and on this side this is what it looks like. Oops, right. Yeah, there you go. You'll have 2 rows of stitching on this side, so it kind of locks that in there. And then on the inside of your zipper, you'll have a nice little roll and no stitching showing. Okay. So now we do the other side. Okay, so then the outside piece just gets folded up and you stitch down another side of your lining pocket. I think in the original pattern it calls for 1 big lining piece pocket, but I cut them in 2 and you'll see why, because then you don't have a hole to do it. So normally you would fold this up and fold this one up and stitch it down, but I don't do it that way. I fold this one up and I get a new piece and I stitch them together like that.
I decided to make hush puppies because Southern cooking makes me feel closer to home. My mother liked to call me pleasantly chunky when I was young. I wasn't all that large, but definitely chunky. What time would you put the sale? My family does the holidays. The first kid to wake up wakes everybody else up in the house. So we always eat breakfast. You want the breakfast cake?
the NCW by M-Line bags, but totally reworked.
20 seconds.
So this part is a little weird. You can open up your zipper if you want, and then stitch them that way. Or what I do is I just move everything over and I just stitch them down because it's easier. For me, I just stitch it down. So you're kind of like stitching it inside this little tube. There, you can see it better on this one. So we're just rolling this part over and leaving all this flat.
Joshua, this is Marilyn. Nice to meet you.
It's easy to stitch, but you just got to make sure that you pull this flat as you're stitching, so you can get a nice top stitch on there. And you're stitching kind of like inside this little tube. So this is what we're left with, right? There's like a tube, your zipper, and you have these two little lining flaps. The important part, put on your zipper tab now. Do not sew it up without your zipper tab. Super irritating because you open them. So, let's see. It doesn't matter which side you start from unless you have directional fabric. There's no top or bottom, right or left on these. Okay, so you set your zipper on, and then you can kind of look inside to see where the teeth line up. You just fiddle it until you can feel it click. Did you hear the click? Once it clicks, it's on, and you can zip in. Leave them closed, it's easier. So we'll do this one again. So you have your teeth, you can see, can you see? So this side is on top of this one. So I'll start the zipper pull on this side. So you open them up, start him on the side that's tallest, and you stick that one in, and then you can use I use my fingernail to kind of push the tab back, and you look inside to make sure this side is up first, and you just slide him on, and he'll click and you'll be able to hear him, like that. It takes practice, but they're pretty easy after a while. See, on this one, this side is up first. So I'll put my tab, I pull on that side, open him up, put that one, put him on there. You just kind of wiggle him and push him on. Simple. Okay, got one more to do here. Okay, so now we're gonna close up our sides. So when we fold this over, so our zipper is right there. So we fold him over so that they line up here, and the zipper is on the lining side. What we're gonna do is we're gonna sew straight down the side. And we're going to sew straight down the side and just leave this bottom part open. So now these guys are all finished. Oh yeah, this island has every single climate in the world except for like tundra. We have desert, we have tropics, we even have permafrost up on the top, so I guess we do have some tundra. But like everywhere you go, there's like a different microclimate. There's a part like up on the mountain called Waimea. It looks just like England. It's crazy with like rolling hills and like little bits of fog. It's so pretty. And then over on the dry side, the Kona side is all desert and like New Mexico, and it's crazy. And then up on the north side of the island, it looks all like Northern California with giant tall trees and stuff. Like kind of like Oregon and Colorado.
So I'm making livermorne tortelloni, which is a really
Screwdriver.
from France with turbox tomatoes and dried apricots.
Phillips tip. Awesome for poking at corners.
And I know he's gonna like this.
So this is the inside of your little zippered pouch, right? So you got this side. We're gonna top stitch this in down. This will be like the little divider in there. And then your pocket is just open because we're gonna top stitch through the whole thing, so you don't have to worry about it. So you just tuck him in, leave him flat, and you don't even have to worry about that little hole because it will get stitched down later. So I also don't clip my corners because there's really no need to clip your corners, and it just weakens them. I just poke them out. So on the other opposite end, I like to just top stitch it because it just makes it less bulky, I guess. Keeps things laying down flatter. Just make sure that your lining is laying flat on the inside. If it was all bunched up, it won't get caught and it won't get stitched together. All of our pockets are done. So, zippered pockets, all done. I just fold them up just so I can know where the center is. So what they'll be like that inside the wallet, kind of. Okay. Pen, it can be permanent, doesn't really matter. So we're gonna mark, so this piece is 8 and 8.5. So 2 3/8. So you mark 2 3/8 down. And that's one line for your card slots. 1/2 inch down. So the first one is 2 3/8, and then you mark the next one 1/2 inch. And you do it on the other side, 2 3/8, and 1/2 inch down from that. So these are wider than 8 inches just because sometimes, like if you cut these exactly 8 inches, sometimes when you do the ends they can get a little out of alignment. So this is just what I had left. So these are going to be way longer than 8 inches. So they're going to line up with the marks that you just made. And he's over the length, but that's fine, we'll just trim it at the end. So then everything will be nice and even. So you line him up on the edge with your line, and then you stitch just like 1/8 of an inch up onto the cork as you stitch them down. So this is the first one. So he's just down there. This is how he flops up. And then you can kind of see the next line, 1/2 inch down. So then we do the next one. But we'll do all of this side first, all the other side, then we'll do the next one, so move on from there. So the next one gets lined up with the 1/2 inch down. So now we got 2 on there, 2 little slots. Turn around, do the same thing on the side. So the good thing about doing it this way is if you're doing them in bulk, like if you plan on doing a lot of them, you can prep all these card slots ahead of time. Oh, am I frozen? But you can prep all these card slots ahead of time and then you just have them ready for when you need a bag. And you just grab it and then stitch them together. It's way faster than having to cut it all out and do each step. So now, these guys are a little different. I think a little light bulb. These guys we mark 1 7/8 down. So 1 7/8 on either side. This is the big 5.5 inch piece, and I've got a little wax chalk. So I don't know if you can see them. Makes just like a nice little teeny tiny line on the cork, and then I just leave it usually, but you can just take a little steam iron and rub it off. Normally the heat here is enough to make it disappear. All the bulk, so this is what we came up with. Okay, so, and then the lines we just marked, we're just going to top stitch these down on those lines, and that holds this guy on. So this is where we're at. So this is the line that we marked, 1 7/8 down, and then we just stitch him down. So now he's attached to our little foundation piece. And like these are all over just because I cut them a little over, and these fiddle ones are way over because it was a remnant, and I was just like, whatever, I'll just trim them at the end. So I'm gonna go trim these down because they're really big, and I will be right back. So these guys, now we're gonna mark the center line and then top stitch him down, and then put the other piece on and then flip it, and then these guys will be done. So we mark the center line. So I kind of back tack a couple times. Where I'm starting my stitches is right here at this top. So So I back tack it a couple times just to make sure it's really nice and secure there because your pockets are going to be right there.
Really, John? It's more fun to go up against than stuff.
So when I trim threads, I trim them really close on this side, and I leave it long on this side, on the back, because if it's gonna pull, like if it pulls from the front, then like you'll have like a loose tail. But if you have this long piece in the back, then you're less likely for it to all pull out. That's sort of just what I do. Yeah. So here is back tacked, just right at that edge, and back tacked right at that edge, and stitch down the center. And those are your little card slots. And they'll just sit just like that. Oh, no, no, no.
It's like the palate cleanser, but it turns out it's not so simple. The difficulty I'm having with my blender and everyone crying like little children.
Okay.
It's just
Maybe. So, okay. So now that we have these all finished, we have this other piece that's cut the exact same size. We're going to lay them on top, stitch top along this top, along the bottom, and then turn him, stitch it again. So now we take that, which just makes a tube, and we turn him right side out. Press the seam, and then we're just gonna top stitch. You know, I didn't want her to freak out. She was just a little kid. She was only 3 when we got here. She's 9 now. So like what I'm doing here is like I'm just with my fingers pressing the seam down just a little bit, so it's a little bit easier to fold. And just kind of fiddle with him to roll him. You see it? Oh, there we go. So you get the nice little crisp edge. So now these guys are all done. So this is the back, so you have a nice smooth clean back. And all your little card slots are in there. They're still open at the sides because we're going to sew those in anyway. So this is our stiffy for our flap. Right, so I fold him in half so I can figure out where this guy goes. So we're going to cut out like this much. You'll see. I should measure, but I don't. So these little extra pieces that you cut out, save these, because you can glue them into your bags behind your magnet snaps, and they're like perfect for it. So save all these. This is what your flap stiffener will be. So I cut this part out because it gets really bulky inside there with that, and there's only like teeny tiny amount of clearance in there. There's like little itty bitty screws. So I cut that little bit out. So then I just kind of So we turn that, and we take our little guy, and we lay them in there. And then I like to get them underneath the seam allowance. You see where like the seam allowance is like on top there? So I like to put it underneath the seam allowance. It's my OCD issues. It should fit right up against, oh, you probably can't see in there. Yeah, no, not really. But anyway, he fits right up against that seam allowance. So when we top stitch, it'll get all sewn down. So now we're just gonna top stitch around the little guy.
Oysters don't grow in Hawaii. We get them all flown in. I just take in as much oysters as I can because we don't
This
want to leave for our child.
is a little screwdriver that I got from Ace Hardware. It has teeny tiny little tips for like glasses and stuff, but it has a big handle. So it's a lot easier than those like little bitty glasses ones that are hard on your hands. See where I drew the little hole and our little dots? So I cut out like 1/8 of an inch bigger than this hole, and I use my little hole punch for these little guys. So I'm gonna mark all of these and then we'll cut them out. Alright. So I got this little punch guy. I think I got him on Amazon or Home Depot, something. Love him. The little one I use for my rivets. I use the bigger sizes for these guys, so I got either this size or this size for my screws and stuff. Okay, so we're gonna punch the holes. Yeah, the little girl, Cooey, she's so cute. She's like 3. I just want to keep her. Okay. Ugh. Alright, so punch my holes. And then I punch. I take my punch. Can you see? Well, maybe I'll punch it and you'll see. Okay. Oops, I didn't really poke through. Anyway. So, as you can see, maybe, can you see? So I poke the hole on the outside of my line because I need the line to be, I need it to be a bigger hole because the line is what I drew on the inside of the hole. This is how I do daylight savings. It's the good sharp scissors. And then you snip out the hole. Let's see if you can see. I'm snipping on the outside of that line. Yeah. Probably like a good, maybe 1/8 of an inch.
Overall, chefs, I think you did a fantastic job. Let's stop with bar. Champagne and oysters, very, very different.
Okay. So they're all cut out.
All that richness.
Sheldon knows a lot of Asian food.
No, everybody probably knows how to do this part.
You guys are all invited to tonight's game. So
Okay.
come watch the game and get inspired.
So I line them up so the little screws are poking through on the side. Hold it with my fingers. You can feel it when it gets in the holes with this guy. Tighten these, because if you over tighten them, it strips them out and then they're going to come out. Again. This is like a little tip. If your screwdriver isn't magnetic, you can take one of your little magnetic snaps, stick him to the side, and then bam! All of a sudden, magnetic screwdriver. It like holds the screws really good, and the more you have this on here, like it'll stay more magnetized. It just kind of, you know, makes the magnetism happen. But it's pretty good right now. Okay, flaps, all finished. Now we're back to our body pieces with our wings. So our little wings here. And then now you'll need your pattern piece. This is the curve from the original pattern. I just kind of cut it off because I don't need the whole piece. And this is the little marks that you need for where the folds go. This is all you need. So we just lay him on top. And we'll just trace this curve, trace the curve, and that's the ones we follow. Yep, see? Then we just draw the little curve on there. You don't have to cut the curve. So when we stitch, oops, mirrored, the edge of our foot will right along here. So we'll pretend that this is our cut edge. So your stitch line will be 1/4 of an inch in. So you just make believe this is your cut edge. Yes. That's my daughter in there singing. Our little tool. Let's flatten these edges out.
So what do you think? Did they do you justice?
It's definitely cut around. It smells really nice.
Okay. Beacon 3-in-1 glue. Awesome stuff. Because you can temporarily leak through your fabric. It's kind of rubbery and you can always pull them off. So it's a good temporary tack kind of glue. So I center my labels an inch down from the edge, just because that's what I do. So now we have all of our labels on. Now I have to mark up for our the little male part of the twist lock. So now this is the stiffy part. It's just a sew in. I just lay it on top, flip it over, and then we're going to stitch around it to kind of hold it in place. Stitch around our label, hold everything together. Okay, so stitching the label on, you stitch it through both sides and then it just holds it in place so you don't have to worry about it. So these are all stitched in. Now I take flaps and baste them to the top. This is the big piece, which is just going to be the inside. Normally it's going to have a curve cut. There's no need to even mark the curve because we marked the curve on these little flaps, and we'll be looking at this side when we sew. So then we'll just trim everything all at one time, so there's no need to cut them twice. For this, I do pin down. So I'm going to be stitching from this side because this is a little bit smoother to sew on. This canvas can be kind of grippy, so it tends to want to slide on the foot. So it's easier to sew it from this side, and you can see your curve that you drew. Okay, so this bottom piece is a little bit bigger. I always cut this one a little bit bigger than I need to because we're going to trim it anyway, so it's a lot easier to have it too big than to have it too small, because this can, you know, when you sew it here, it can have some variation, like, you know, if you take a little bit more here or whatever. But I cut this one like 1/4 inch too big, all the bottom piece too big, so that you have that leeway. So all pinned. Pin all of it. And see, when you're doing a curve, you turn it like this with this hand, and it kind of moves everything in as a smooth curve. Don't stop. Like, even if your curve is off, like where you need it to be, like if you stop and start, it's going to be like jagged. If you keep moving, even though it's a little off, it'll be more of a smooth curve, and it's a little bit, you know, less noticeable if it's a smooth curve and it's a little off than if it's like a big jagged or, you know. So all sewn around curves, if you can see. Yeah, see where the drawn line is, and then our stitch line is on the inside of that. So this side is just all nice big piece and curves. So now when we go to trim these curves, then it gets all trimmed out anyway because you gotta trim them. So there's no sense in cutting your curves twice. Now we trim all of our curves. I trim them down to 1/8 of an inch so I don't have to cut little snips in it because that takes longer. And then this stuff doesn't fray, so I don't have to worry about it poking through or fraying. Then when you do it this way, because if you cut these beforehand, sometimes like it'll bunch and pull when you do the curves, and then this way everything is like nice and flat and perfectly even. Okay, so now you're probably like, how do I turn that? So what we're going to do is we're going to draw a line down the center, cut a hole right here in the center, because this will be inside underneath all your pieces that are going to. So not all the way to the edge. So like just in the middle part, just enough for a turning hole. So just draw a little line. You see the line? So we're going to cut him open on that hole. So I got my little seam ripper. Get these little cheapy guys. And then, okay, so the edge is here, and the edge is here for where your wings are, right? So you want to open your hole inside that edge. So now you have your turning hole. Your stiffy is underneath the seam allowance right there. So they're not like puckered above the seam allowance and stuff. So in C-section, yes, these are a C-section. So these will be all closed up in their birthing hole. So I push all the air out of them. So this is how it is. So you have your little wings on the side. You don't top stitch this down yet. Yep. Cleo bird. Just like, yeah, CLO bird. Okay, so now we're just going to top stitch all the way around them. This is the whole flap outside piece. We're going to go ahead and put the male part in, all sewn down. So all the edges are good now. Look through this side. You put your little guy here on there. These ones, I find, they're really strong, so they hold better when they flip out. Okay. Get him. So you can feel the edges on the sides. So you just line him up so he's inside there. And waiting. Make sure your zipper goes right to left. I hold it off the edge. And draw a little line. And then you move down an inch from there. And we're gonna just top stitch through everything down both these lines, and we back tack it really good. So now we're all stitched down. Our card slots are in there. As you can see, your turning hole is all nicely hidden underneath your stitching. It's all right underneath here. When I fold up this edge, I pull these guys like a little triangle to get them out of the way. And then you just kind of curl the edge around. Oops, you see them? And it should just hit right on the inside of this little edge here. On here. So that will hold these two together and hold our card slots to finish that nice little edge on the inside. Much tension on this top part. I back tack it, you know, that one stitch like 3 or 4 times just to make it really strong to hold against all the wear and tear. All tight, caught inside that seam, 1/4 of an inch inside that seam. So all the card slots are nice and held in. Okay, so you see this little back tack right there? It's like a whole bunch of little stitches all in that one. If you just do them in the one stitch, it doesn't look all messy. And you can see just that little edge that we're stitching down. And then on the inside, oops, it holds in all your little card slots. So yeah, so basically we're all finished sewing part. So you got your little divider flap, your little zippery flap, all your card slots, your little pouchy bits there, all nice on the outside. So on my little curve I have little notches marked where we fold in for. Let's see, this part, so then where your little mark is, right there, is where this guy's gonna go. And he'll just hug right onto there. That's really it. All I have to do now is go over here, rivet these little guys in. He's done. I add little D-ring tabs to the top here to make it like a little purse wallet, so you can put like a crossbody strap or any other strap. But he's basically all nice and done. And they're nice and stiff too. They're a nice firm wallet. And a little snap. So I just kind of eyeball where I put my rivets. You'll feel like the zipper comes down on the inside a little bit, and you don't really want to hit it. So you take your little male rivet and you pop him through the hole. Oh, this one might be too stiff to pop the other side on. Your female side. Oops. And you can just squeeze them on for right now, and they'll stay until you get to the press and you like really press them on. What you got? And we're all done. All nice and finished.